I've spent a while on this channel railing on bogus teams, crap players, and generally laughing at the weird and wacky side of sports. So I thought it was time to chuck a little positivity out there. So I present to you my all-star AFL team of the 21st century. The best players I personally have ever seen play the game. There are only a few rules, so let's get through them fast. 1. I must have been around to observe the bulk of these players' careers, so no Alastair Lynch, Wayne Carey, or Paul Williams, for example. I've set a soft limit of the year 2001, just for reference. 2. This ain't like an all-Australian team. I'm assembling this thing like it's an actual team that I am to win a game of footy with instead of chucking 17 midfielders into it. This also means I'm balancing controversy with skill, and probably failing. 3. I'm setting a limit of 5 players per team, otherwise this thing will basically be Brisbane's 2003 squad with Dean Cox in the ruck. And 4, I am, largely, an idiot, so my picks won't be the same as everybody else's, probably. I am interested to see what you guys think though, so leave your thoughts and indeed your own best 23s in the comments below. Right, let's roll. Before we get into the team proper, I just want to roll through some honourable mentions here, they'll be coming up on the screen. These are players that for whatever reason just didn't quite scrape into this best 23 for me, whether it be that they didn't have their prime during the time I was watching television, or I just thought other players would fit the team dynamic better. So while I'm rambling on, I've also ruled out a couple of players due to controversy outright that otherwise would have made the team. So the two that come to mind for me, Ben Cousins, dynamic midfielder, obviously had his off-field problems, and Stephen Milne, never convicted for anything, but yeah, just didn't want any part of that. Here we go, finished now. Josh Gibson, good, we're done. So let's start with the bench. I had a hard time picking the ruck rover spot, and essentially it came down to 3 players. The man I ended up picking, then Dustin Martin and Patrick Dangerfield. In the end, Dangerfield's pace and superior marking ability just outweighs Martin's superior goal kicking. As you'll see, we have plenty of goal kicking talent here already. Adam Goods clinches the next spot. The man can literally play anywhere, and he won 2 Brownlows. Perfect rotation player to have handy. The IC is filled out by 2 of the biggest guns from the engine room of the Cats dynasty, namely Joel Selwood and Stevie J, with the evergreen dynamo Boomer Harvey as the Medisub ready to slot in anywhere and just add a metric ton of pace. We start the best 18 at the back, and with the power. Luke Power to be exact. Incredibly skillful, incredibly mobile, incredibly versatile. He can be either a 50 goal forward, a 600 disposal midfielder, or a 5100 defender. Amazing to watch, and a cool name too. Corey Enright, recent Hall of Famer, is our other pocket, and what a player he was. Actually, I might as well bring these 2 into it as well, including another recent Hall of Famer. That Cats defense from 06 to about 2012 was nuts. Loyal viewers may remember these 3 musketeers from the Corio Exorcism as the first 3 to touch the ball. That's what they could do. Not only keep teams to low scores, but counter-attack and add scores of their own. Enright and Bartel are champion midfielders in their own right, should you want to use them as such, and Scarlett is unequivocally the best fullback of his generation. And they had longevity too. Look at what they were doing in their final seasons after 300 games of wear and tear. Amazing. Ryan Lake was a favourite of mine for years. He didn't just cover attacking players, he made you wonder if they were even playing that day. For a centre-half back to win the Norm Smith medal is huge, and that's exactly what you'd expect from him. Even at the Bulldogs, he was a gun. Yep, no surprise here. Andrew McLeod is the best halfback flanker to play the game ever. There will be no arguments. Next. The man I've put on the wing in the widest space imaginable is a man who could drive a tractor in a phone booth, such is his spatial mastery. It doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to shoehorn Scott Pendlebury out there, but as you'll see, the calibre of inside mids the AFL has produced is just that high. As we've discussed, he's part of a rare statistical club, and he just seems to have an extra second on the ball than everyone else. He is a time wizard. Simon Black holds down the other wing. Yes, my wingmen aren't the paciest, but Black is the best disposer of the ball I have ever seen. Good luck blocking off all of his channels. He'll find a target, even if you blindfold him. And right in between those two, well, I only need to say 4 words. C. Judd, 3 votes. There can only be one ruckman in this team. Yes, Sandilands was huge, Goldstein and Jacobs put up ridiculous numbers, Gawn put up bigger ones, and Grundy and Nick Nat roved around the ground like mad. But none of them revolutionised the position. Dean Cox took the reins left by guys like Steins, Scott Wynd and Sean Wren and increased the scope of the roving ruck concept. Those 3 all looked like, well, ruckmen, lumbering around the ground. Cox looked like, well, a big midfielder. Picture Mark Blitzarves, but about 6 times as talented. I want to show you this before we move on. This is his goal from the 06 Grand Final. What ruckman can do this? Dean Cox, that's who. It feels weird putting in a bloke who's not even the best player in his family, but that speaks to how big of a footballing royalty the Ablets are, and there will be a video coming out on that, stay tuned. Like seriously, there's 2 premiership players in there that people just flat out forget. If you're in the fantasy scene in the late aughts and early teens, Junior was your guy. If other stars got injured, you traded them immediately, without a thought. They were replaceable. If Gadge was out for even a month, you hard carried him, because he racked up so much more of the ball than anyone else, while laying 4 tackles a game, averaging over a goal per match from midfield, and only giving away a single free kick per 80 minutes. He was unbelievable. Using a forgotten Ablet as bait, he was lured to and trapped in a lobster cage, masquerading as a football club for 7 years, carrying it on often dislocated shoulders. I feel like I'm just rambling about how good Gary Ablett Jr. was now, so I'll move on, but thanks for the Supercoach wins, you little genius. This spot troubled me. Dangerfield and Martin are fantastic ruck rovers, they're adept all over the ground, they're fast and bust packs like mortars, but they shell the ball off all over the show. Rashuto was a battleship who walked like a man, but after Judd turned up he looked as smooth as agricultural equipment. Buckley was an absolute jet, but as Eddie Maguire's Batman, we were all trained to hate him. The St Kilda 4 were all great, but Lenny Hayes as a ruck rover, I don't know. In the end, it was a choice between 2 versions of the same type of player, a crash and bash winner of a prestigious medal. And in the end, Luke Hodge has a bit more defensive versatility about him, especially as a roving player, than Dane Swan. My last Brisbane player gave the controversy criteria the old golf club treatment, but he passes the number 1 criteria of a champion player. Every time he plays against your team, you hate his guts for being so damn good. I reckon that feeling should just be called the Jason Ackermanis effect. He was a bundle of dynamite soaked in nitroglycerin, mounted on C4, and covered in a bad recollection of Stephen Bradbury's face. There is no one you could substitute him for who could in any way match him. Truly an incredible player. My full forward also troubled the controversy scales, but for sheer ability to score from anywhere, this lad's unmatched. With a footy brain the size of his various off-field addictions, Brendan Favola was something else. You may think he's too controversial to be here. I'll make my case. First, someone like Ben Cousins is, as good as he was, easily replaceable in this team despite his skill. I'm tripping over guys like him. I don't even have to go outside his own team from his own era to find multiple people who could belong. Favola, though, averages more goals than all but two men to have played after 2000. The gap to Richo is big. Beyond that, it's a canyon. Secondly, the footy show threw him into that Brownlow gig without a parachute, and even Warney said that his teammates should have pulled the plug. The footy show ended his career. Much like Robbie Muir, they destroyed his reputation. It was disgusting. Carlton's management of him as a whole was generally poor. And if you're still not convinced that his footy skills outweigh his depression-led drinking and gambling, Google Round 3 2007. You're welcome. Yeah. Big shock, the only millennial in the 2000s era is here. What more can we say about Lance Franklin? Well, nothing. We have pretty much exhausted the English lexicon talking about him, and he still guides teams to grand finals at the age of 35. I've made a whole video on just how good one of Matthew Lloyd's 14 seasons was, so it's no surprise he's here. He is without a doubt the very best key forward that I've ever seen. Strong, fast, unerringly accurate. He was incredible, and he still doesn't get enough respect. The same can be said for my first pocket, Brad Johnson. The smiling assassin is known today as a great pundit, but people forget he was a 60-goal-a-season medium forward. I remember watching him tear my Crows apart every time we played him, with only Scott Welsh and Ken freaking McGregor up the other end to counter him, and wished we had a player like him. He just oozed class, and he never got that premiership that he deserved. But even the 350-game, 600-goal wonder pales in comparison to my final selection. I'll do all I can to not make this a marriage proposal, but Eddie Betts is the greatest small forward of all time. There can be no debate. No one was more consistently exciting, and when he wore the tricolours, no one was more prolific. He won 4 Goal of the Year awards. The only other man to even get 2 was Lance Franklin. Dacos, Rioli, Davis, Ackermanis, Abraham, Modra and Mitchell, the most mercurial men of their times, only managed 1 each. That's how good he was. If you need a man to kick for your life, you pick one of these guys. If you need a man to kick for your life from here, it's Eddie Betts, every time. And that's it. That's my best 23. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and like I said, get your own 23s down there. I want to see what you guys think. And I will see you sometime soon. Have a good one.